All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 21st of November, 2024. Flyers Daily, as always, presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Real quick programming note. Coming up on Monday, of course, Bill Meltzer is going to be joining for his weekly segment. And next Tuesday, we'll have an exclusive one-on-one sit-down with Flyers general manager Danny Briere. We'll assess the first quarter of the season and much more with the GM. As for this episode, Flyers go down last night. Let's recap it. Flyers lose to the Canes 4-1 in a game where they went into the third period, tied at 1. Got down early, 30 seconds into the game. They go down as Jalen Chatfield finds a lane through what is a 5-player multi-layered screen. It deflects off a Flyer and into the back of the net behind Ivan Fedotov. That gave the Canes the early 1-0 lead just 30 seconds in. First period would end that way. Flyers, after about the first 7 or 8 minutes, started to gain their footing, played a pretty decent period. After that, ended up, I think, out shooting Carolina with 11-10 in the shots. In the second period, the Flyers get the game tied just 2:13 in from what I guess you would deem as an unlikely source, at least so far this season, because it's Ryan Poehling's first goal of the season in the 20th game of the season. Talked about yesterday's episode, Flyers needing to get more scoring from their centers. Well, Poehling provides one here, shoots the puck actually through the legs of the Carolina Hurricanes defender. By the way, that defender was none other than Sean Walker, and gets the Flyers on the board. Kind of fooled Kochetkov a little bit, but a real good play made in the neutral zone to start it. It's an active stick by Noah Cates that causes a turnover just outside the Flyer blue line. Cates causes a turnover, pushes the puck back to Nick Seeler, who doesn't dust it off, gather it, get up and look. Boom, right away. One-touch pass to Ryan Poehling in stride. And as he enters the zone, Garnet Hathaway kind of swings behind him. And they're going in a bit of a 2-on-2, but as Poehling's coming across, he shoots it right through the legs of Sean Walker, and it beats Kochetkov. Flyers get the game tied. Now, in that second period, they only had 4 shots on goal. We've harped on, the 6 periods, maybe 7 now, that the Flyers have had only 3 shots on goal in a period. This one, they only have 4. In Carolina, as we talked about yesterday in the preview, one of the best teams at shot suppression. 1, because they seem to have the puck all the time. 2, because the puck is very rarely in their zone. And 3, that, they just do a good job of keeping everything to the outside and blocking shots. Their structure is impermeable, and they did a great job here against the Flyers. Flyers in that last game only had 16 shots when they played Carolina. They scored on 4 of them. The save percentage for Kochetkov in that night was .750, which obviously is not good. But they head into this third period tied at 1. But I think Carolina is one of those teams that when you play them, if you can't match them with your depth, eventually there's a cumulative effect to how they wear you down, because they just roll line after line. It's suffocating. They don't let you up for air. Like, remember when you were a kid and your buddy was dunking you in the pool and you're like, all right, dude, enough. You got to let me up for air. That's what it feels like, I think, in third periods playing against Carolina, at least this season, because 103 in, Sebastian Aho gets a goal to make it 2-1. Then Jordan Stahl gets the goal to make it 3-1. And then Jack Roslovich, 55 seconds after the Stahl goal, gets loose down in front of the net and is able to outstretch Ivan Fedotov and makes it 4-1. And all of a sudden, the game's over. Not even 7 minutes in to the fourth or to the third period, and Carolina's got control of the game. It's what they do to so many teams. The fact that they have the puck so much and those minutes of teams chasing them with the puck are way more exhausting than it is for Carolina, who's got the puck and is dictating the terms. Because you're chasing the play and they have the puck, you're just exerting so much more energy, and that wears you down. And then, again, you couple that. We talked about this on the postgame show on the radio last night, Brian Smith and I. I feel like if you grabbed a book, the Bible of hockey, we'll call it, and it has the 10 Commandments or the core tenets of a good team in hockey, a really good team, I think Carolina checks every one of the boxes, whether it's consistent, diligent, and detailed structure in all zones, whether it's the elements of having depth and having players that fill certain roles that you need. Again, they're a really well-built team. It's not a collection of just talent. They're a really well-built team. And players that know their roles, players that accept that role, and players that are willing to do some of the less glorious things for the good of the team. They're obviously very well coached with Rod Brindamore, which speaks to their structure, their detail, and the way they go about their business. They're very professional, the Carolina Hurricanes. They're not the sexiest team out there, but they are very professional. And you couple that with the fact that they get good, solid goaltending. They've had some change there, too, in the blue line, and they're off to a bonkers start. So when you look at those core tenants, they're really important. But the really important one, I think the most important one for Carolina, is that with all of that good structure and all those good elements, they're also willing to work their tail off to win races to pucks, to win 50-50 battles on the boards, to commitment to outworking the opposition, despite the fact that they may have more talent and certainly more depth than their opponent. They're still willing to outwork their opponent. Now, the Flyers, I thought, worked their rear ends off the first two periods of the game. They lost their way in the third. Again, I think that's part of that cumulative effect. But for the Flyers to beat a team like Carolina, you have to outwork them. And that's hard to do with Carolina because they're going to, most nights, do everything they can to not let that happen. And you have to get some good bounces. You just have to. Flyers aren't in that category yet to be able to go out and just outwork Carolina and win because Carolina is willing to work as well. Shots in the game, 37-19. And even though Fedotov gave up 4 goals in the game, I think this was his 4th straight really good performance. In the second period, there was a play down along the left side, and he threw a 2-pad stack, a butter stack, which is an old school goaltending save selection. You don't see it very often. I'll tell you why in a second. But he throws the stack, makes a save as he's sprawled out along the left side of his left side of his net. And then eventually the puck squirts behind and comes out for a sharp angle opportunity for another Canes player from the right side. And he gets up and dives back in there, sprawled out, full extension, ends up getting the save off his pants. And he keeps it out. He's just battling. The dude's in there just battling his butt off. And when I talk about goaltenders and the way the team plays in front of them, and, you know, if a goaltender doesn't have confidence, it affects the guys negatively in front of them. But when a goaltender's battling like that, I think that's got an infectious approach as well. Now, it didn't work out in this game because they didn't win. And they got outscored 3-0 in the third period. But I thought that Fedotov was really good in the game again. And again, there was really some moments in this game where that were not aesthetically pleasing to watch from a goaltending technical standpoint. His puck handling, one time he got up behind the net, he did a full 360 and then tried to play the puck, which I would never advise. But he was good in the game. He battles. We're starting to learn something about him, that he'll battle. So that's a good thing. He's battling for his NHL life. And maybe that's part of it. But I thought he was good in the game. As far as the 2-pad stack, why it doesn't happen as much anymore, I think the reason is, the save selection just takes you so far out of the play and into a position that's very difficult to get back up from, to recover from. And you couple that with it's really difficult in today's modern equipment to get up from because the pads are much bigger and more square, whereas back when the 2-pad stack was more prominent, they were wearing the leather and deer hair pads, and they were much more unencumbered by the equipment because there just wasn't that much equipment. But I thought his technique on it was perfect. I remember learning it as a kid. Kick the back leg under the front, the lead leg, kick it out, get the armpit down, get the paddle extended, get the glove on top of the pad, cover as much, get the glove forward a little bit too to cut angle. He did them all perfect. I was surprised for a 27-year-old guy that he knew the technical elements of the two-pad stack. But good on him. It was good to see him really compete again. And he's, in my opinion, he's played 4 really good games as of right now. And again, this Canes team, like I said, with their depth and the way they work, that's what the Flyers want to become. They're instilling that work ethic now, but you need more players. You need more depth. You need to have those things. Flyers need those players and to commit to the structure more and not fall out of it. Like when the 2 goals were scored in 55 seconds in the third period, we've seen Flyers get scored on multiple goals in very small chunks of times, several times this season and going back to last season as well. So that's not a new trait. That's the trait of a young team and a team that still has a ways to go. And when you play a team like Carolina, you see that. You absolutely see that, plain as day. Now, the game last night wrapped up the first quarter of the season. So the Flyers through 20 games, season's 82. They have a record of 8-10-2, 18 points, and a minus 14 goal differential. At home, they're 4-6, not good enough. On the road, 4-4-2. So how does that 20 games compare to last year's 20 games? Again, the record 8-10-2, 56 goals for, 67 goals allowed. Last year through 20 games, they were 10-9-1 with 63 goals for. So that's 7 less goals scored through 20 games for the Flyers. 58 goals allowed last year, 67 this year. So they've allowed 9 more goals. And there's the difference. It's not a huge difference, but it is. Because you're a game over 500 through 20 last year. Now you're 2 under 500 this year. And if you want to look at it just from, did you walk out of the building as a winner or a loser? This year, they have lost 12 games. They're 8-12. They've won 8 games, and they, whether it's shootout, overtime, whatever it is, they've lost 12. Last year, they were 10-10 through 20 games. So slightly different, but it could be a big difference when you have a team that doesn't have the margin for error. And again, one of the things I thought going into this year, and I predicted, was that they would score more goals, but I questioned whether they would give up less. They've given up more goals, but they haven't scored more goals. We'll see if they can straighten that out. It seems obviously to be an issue when you have, just the lack of center scoring is alarming. Scott Lawton's got 2 goals. They came in Seattle. Sean Couturier, most of his all came in the one game against Minnesota. Paling's first goal came last night. Morgan Frost has a goal, hasn't been in the lineup in 4 games, 4 out of the last 5 or 3 out of the last 4. We'll see if he draws back in on Saturday against the Chicago Blackhawks. So we're here at this quarter poll, and I said this was around the time we'd be able to start making assessments. We'd be able to start knowing what this team is. But as we sit here at this quarter poll, I feel like there are some knowns. Like we have some known commodities and we still have some unknown commodities. Travis Konechny is obviously a very known commodity, 23 points in 20 games. Mishkov, I think, is a known commodity. Travis Sanheim, I couldn't have a more known commodity on the team if I tried. He's been excellent. Not good, excellent. And the leadership off the ice and everything. He's getting a lot of accolades right now, and he's earned it. But fourth on the Flyers' scoring is Owen Tippett. He's got 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points, but he's a minus 12. Brink has got 9 points. Couturier's got 9. 5 of them came in the one game against Minnesota. Well, I think Couturier's played well. The known commodity is his 200-foot game. The unknown part of it is the ability to generate scoring. Now, I know his advanced numbers are very good when it comes to expected goals for. But as Brian Smith always says, when it comes to expected goals, expected by who? Joel Farabee. I think he's been pretty good, but the production's not there. 3 goals and 5 assists. And again, a -12. Lawton's a -12 also. Just 2 goals. Hathaway, we know what Garner Hathaway is. That's a known commodity. Paling, just the 1 goal. I don't expect a ton of offense from Ryan Paling, but I expect more than that. He's on a 4-goal pace when it comes to the blue line. Obviously, we talked about Sanheim. Cam York is a big unknown commodity right now because he's injured. The 4 Flyers that are injured are all day-to-day. Cam York, Emil Andre, Jamie Drysdale, and Sam Ersson. But what day? When are they coming back? Cam York's played in 7 games, 2 goals and an assist, averaging over 22 minutes of ice time, almost 23. But he hasn't been available. Andre, now he's on the shelf. We really like what we saw out of him. Jamie Drysdale, that's an unknown commodity. Eric Johnson, we know what that commodity is. He's probably played too much at this point in his career, 15 games already this season. So there's some known things, and there's still a lot of unknown. Where's it going to arc? Is Tyson Forster going to go on a run where he starts piling up goals with consistency? He had 2 in the last 3 games, but he still only has 4 on the season. And he's a guy you're depending on to score. Rasmus Ristolainen, I think, has been a very good known commodity. He's been a big positive. And obviously, Sam Ersson's injury is a big unknown. But while we know some things about this team a quarter of a way into the season, I still feel like we don't know much. I really don't. I know the team's going to work and they're going to battle back. And I know that they're going to dig the hole too deep sometimes. Because why do I know that? Because it's happened on a number of occasions already this year. It happened last year. Those lapses can be really costly when you give up a couple of goals and you're only down 1, or you give up a couple of goals and you're tied. Those are game deciding. So while there are some things we know, I think there's still a ton we don't know about this team. And I don't know where this season is going. I really don't. I don't know what twists and turns this is going to take. I don't know what this next 20-game chunk is going to look like other than the opponents. So I just don't know. They got to get back at it. They got to salvage this homestand. You got to beat Chicago on Saturday. Chicago came in here last year on my birthday, on March 30th, when the Flyers coming down the stretch trying to secure a playoff spot. Chicago stunk out loud, and they came into Philly and they beat them 5-1 on March 30th last year. So you got to take the team seriously, even though they're not very good. You got to take them seriously. Got to get a win on Saturday. Worry about Monday on Monday and Vegas in the final game of the homestand. Got to get a win on Saturday against the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll preview that game coming up tomorrow. So join us then on a brand new Flyers Daily.